All right, hey everybody on the square. I'm Andrew Marston, and I've decided to start this super casual interview series to get to know some of the active members of the community here. And there's a long list of people. If you would like to be on this little quasi show here, don't be shy. Please email me at andrew@andrewmarston.com and we can make it happen. I would love to talk to you and just get to know you a little bit better. And today we are joined by the one and only Beau Ryan. Beau, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So, Beau, the way I want to do this is, did you get that shipment of ghost peppers I sent you? Because like after every question, we're gonna both eat another ghost pepper. That's kind
Oh,
of.
that was the Amazon package at the door.
Oh,
I can
okay,
go
okay.
and yeah, okay.
Well, we don't have to do that this time, but thank
Okay,
you for
next time.
being game for that.
Of
Um,
course.
so, Beau, before most interviews, I feel like they make a mistake where they ask the guest at the very end to share their links of where people can find them online. Let's just do that right up front to get everybody who's watching. Where can people find you online?
Sure. It's beauryancreative.com. I wasn't lucky enough to have a name that's unique like Andrew Marston. There is an another Australian rugby player. He's a celebrity and he has my name. He's born at the same time as me. Um, well, not same, exactly the same time, but I think he's
Okay.
the same age as me and he's accomplished far more, unfortunately. But beauryancreative.com. And I think it's Beau W Ryan on Instagram, and that's pretty much it. And the square, of
Oh,
course.
yeah, absolutely. Well, so let's just start with the basics. So, what do you do?
I'm a graphic designer turned motion designer. So I kind of did it the other way around, where everyone learns motion first and then they learn graphic design. I did it the hard way. Um, I always wanted to be an animator. And but back when I was an animator, like animation to me was like drawing for The Simpsons, right? Like that was the high watermark, like when I was a kid. And then one of my teachers in high school said, you'll never make any money doing animation. You should do graphic design and communications." So kind of got started on that path. And then just yeah, and then you just keep learning. And then now, with today's age and the digital age and video being everywhere and ubiquitous and expected, yeah, the road signs were quite clear that that's where the industry is going and that's the path. So took a little diversion and moved into motion graphics. So which is really motion designer, right? Like I've already got half of it, so I just need to learn the motion and so that was fun. Um, yeah, so I started like first animation was probably like about 3.5 years ago, maybe. And it's terrible, of course. I watched the Joey reel that he posted. It was amazing. Like
Yeah,
I love that.
and the whole time he's saying like, "Oh, this is terrible. Oh man, I'm so embarrassed by this." And I'm thinking like, "Huh, I wish I could do work as good as that. What does that
Yeah,
say about me?"
yeah, yeah. Well, it's crazy, right? You always if you don't look back at your old stuff and cringe, like you're not moving forward, right? So the rate of change for me right now is pretty amazing. Like it's pretty like fun. Where I just got into Cinema 4D. So now doing 3D work, and now I'm taking Ascent next because it's just like, okay, cool. I know, like, I can do stuff that looks like it was made in the 1990s, um, and so now I should do stuff that makes it look like it's known now. So that's the next step for me. On top of that, personally, like a maker. So I before I had kids, pre-kids.
The
I
pre-kids era.
I used to make like props, like movie props and like costumes and stuff like that. I do woodworking. I went in an art gallery for a while. Like I tried painting for a while. Um, and always come back to the graphics and motion graphics. So it's just keep trying stuff out, right? Always learning.
Yeah. And so you said you're taking Ascent. Did you take Basecamp? C40
Yeah.
Basecamp?
Yeah, just finishing it up now. Yeah.
What'd you think?
I loved it. Um, I tried I tried learning Cinema 4D by myself, like just through YouTube and whatever, and either I was actually falling asleep Like I remember sitting on the bus and like trying to watch a Cinema 4D tutorial and just like waking up and I dropped my phone and like just terrible.
Yeah.
And of course not retaining any of it because I'm not using it. Or they assume that you know all this stuff and you're like, what is that? Or are they using a version from like 5 years ago? Um, so no, I loved it. It's really good and it's paced like breakneck speed.
Hmm.
But the cool thing is now um, you can keep going back and like rewatching bits and kind of yeah, like it's great. So I'm really comfortable in 3D now.
And so,
Um,
are those the only two courses that you have taken or are taking
so I
from School of
took
Motion? Advanced?
advanced motion methods, yeah. So I took that, but I'd done After Effects training like on YouTube and like in other places, and I had it like someone put this in a funny way for me, but like some of those places, it's kind of like and you draw those tutorials where you draw an owl, and it's like you draw a circle, you draw a triangle, and then owl, right? Like you're like, wait, how did you get from? And they're like, okay, moving on, and you're like, wait, what? And then so I'd done a little bit of I did a bit of YouTube training and stuff. Thought myself, I know After Effects, and then I go into advanced motion methods and get my butt can we swear on the square?
Oh,
Um, but
whatever you
I
want.
get my ass handed to me in a really great way that made me reflect and go back and do the basics. I still haven't done the final assignment,
Hmm.
so haven't fully finished. But that was such an eye opener for me. And so yeah, I've been going back and rewatching and watching, and then yeah, getting distracted by shiny things in Cinema 4D now. So
Yeah, it's tough. And 'cause you work for yourself, yeah?
do
Yeah.
now, yeah.
I find it really difficult if I get some idea in After Effects and I just run with it. Like, it's really hard sometimes for me to, like, stay on track working for myself because there's no boss there telling me, like, okay, we need this by the end of the day. And so, like, they'll post a 15-minute MoGraph challenge and I'll do it. And then I'll have, like, this idea from that. And then 5 hours later, I've been making planets in After Effects. I'm like, what am I doing right now? I need to
What
be
time is
sending.
it?
Yeah, exactly. It's tough, but
Yeah,
it's also great. Do you like working for yourself?
I do. Yeah, it's definitely new. It's new for me, but I love that I get to choose when I work. So like if the weather's nice, I just get on my bike and go for a ride, and it's as long as I'm meeting my deadlines, it doesn't really matter. So that's pretty nice. Yeah, and then just having more flexibility around my time, especially with having I got two young kids,
Yeah.
was 5 and 3,
Oh.
and just being able to be there for like all the random stuff and go to the playground and all that kind of stuff, go for bike rides.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good.
What are some of the challenges that you've encountered going solo?
Um, Getting into the mindset of the work that you're doing now is like next month's meal,
Mm.
like, and that forward-looking mindset of you might like I don't know, you say you quote for a project and you're like that's amazing money. It's like you're not going to see that money, and that net 30 is like pretty reasonable, and there's deposits and all that kind of stuff, but like some places like 60 not 60 or 90 days, and it's like you might you might get a check in the mail that you're like, I don't even remember doing this project. So that's been hard. So like the first I kind of I quit my job just because as you do.
Yeah.
And so like those first like month or two where you kind of like you're doing the work but like the paycheck doesn't come was like kind of scary, but once you get used to that, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd mentioned to you personally before, but like the whole getting everything right, like setting your business up correctly, and then like what software to use too, or if you use any software. Because you talk to some people and they're just doing like Excel and just being really smart. Well, that doesn't help me.
Yeah, that's not me.
So yeah, so that's fine. And then the other thing I found, or depends on your client, and like this is probably just going to come, but like educating your client on like how long animation takes, because I think that they see it and you know, they see it all over the place, and you're like, oh yeah, that's fine. That's the whatever. It's like you don't understand how much work went into that like Google piece or whatever, right? And it was like $100,000 project or whatever it is, or it's a whole team full of people, and it's like just one person, right? So,
Yeah.
um,
So do you work with illustrators and other like like specialist character riggers, or are you the one stop shop? Where you do the illustration and the boards and the everything, and then you animate it?
Currently, for my own projects, I'm a one-stop shop. I think that's just how, because I was internal. I've been an in-house designer for like my whole career. So usually you're the one person in the company that does the things, so you got to figure it out. So that's afforded me many opportunities to like fail on someone else's dime, internally. And so, yeah, you just get better at illustration and whatnot. So, yeah, I do the board, like concept to completion, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's hard because I mean, I think you're much more talented than me at like illustration and graphic design, but it's hard for me when I'm the one-stop shop for a client who has sort of like a medium to small budget because so I can't afford to hire it out. But I also know like, geez, if I just had a little more money, I could hire somebody who's gonna just like knock this out of the park. All they do is design, and they're just gonna kill it. They'll give it to me. I'll animate it. And I found that's one of the struggles for me at working as like a one-stop shop for smaller companies that need animation. I'm actually so on my screen. I don't think you can see my screen the way we're recording, but I'm showing the that lighthouse animation that you did. That is
Mm,
just beautiful.
thank
So,
you.
because this is you made a really smart choice by putting this at the beginning of your reel and on your website because it's just like fantastic. I saw this and I'm like, geez, I wonder how much that guy costs. I wonder if he's available. Like, I hope everybody sees this and is just like, I need to contact Beau and work with him because that's what I thought. Can you walk me through briefly, just for my own personal interest? So, what was the process here? Was this, first of all, was this just a personal piece or is this for a client?
Just a personal piece. So I watched Adobe Max last year, free for everyone, which was fantastic. And I found Charlie Davis, apologies, amazing illustrator. This like he's kind of got this like 1950s like Art Deco sort of style,
Yeah.
and he does a lot of like scenery and like cityscapes and just these like super emotional, and just uses color in a really really smart way, and like line and shape to kind of like draw your eye around where the action's happening, right? And like just this kind of stuff too, where it's like just like what like same color and texture as the water of the bathing. It's just amazing. Just such an incredible illustrator, and same with like color, right? Just super smart with color. So in an attempt to try and like, I was inspired, right?
Yeah,
Tr
absolutely.
Try and do my own thing. I've this one too. We could be here all day. How long?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you try and you do your own thing, and then like even if you try and replicate exactly what they made, it's always going to come out different, right? So that's kind of how the inspiration works.
Yeah, I think Ryan Summers, maybe it was maybe in his Ask Me Anything. Maybe
Mm,
I might be getting this way wrong, but he basically said like, uh, for those looking for like inspiration or stuck in a rut, just copy somebody else's work.
totally.
And I find that too. If I try to copy somebody else's motion in After Effects, almost immediately in the process, I'm struck with other ideas and it becomes something completely different.
Definitely. Yeah, and you'll always take your own experience. So yeah, I kind of so this I don't know how well you can
Oh,
see
yeah,
this. Just
quite
did little
clear.
thumbnails, right? And so I nearly every project I start out like this, and some die on the vine right here if I don't find that they're panning out. But just like yeah, it's how I start every project. Has to start on pencil and paper, otherwise you get locked in too early, right?
Hmm.
Um, so then kind of took little thumbnails there, and then kind of went. What have I got here? I got There's like the first iteration, I was like kind of campfire. There's like a bit of a river, maybe some trees, mountain. I had this smoke in mind like pretty early on, and I wanted it to occlude like the white, like that was locked in pretty early. Same thing on the edge of a mountain, big mountainscapes, etc. And then I think I ended up here, which is kind of like pretty close to what we ended up with. I had a whale, and I was like, I can't animate whales. I'm sure I can if I tried, but yeah.
Yeah,
So then, then we kind of get to here, and
it's just beautiful.
thank you, man. So this will not render in real time because
That's fine. Yeah.
it's an absolute nightmare. So, a little bit of action happening here. So, a little bit of trim paths happening on this little the wind here. This I did this all in Illustrator as well. Let me see if this opens. So, like you kind of see here, I decided, that there's two of these because I wanted the double line. So like it does change. It doesn't have to stay exactly the same. Um, so yeah, I kind of applied like that. Was it like an edge? Oh, you're blocking my FX panel. One
Oh,
second. Unbelievable. How dare
sorry. I
you?
apologize. I apologize.
Okay, so yeah, there's a gradient ramp on everything. What's the front hill? I think these are actually not effects. These are layer styles. Yeah, so these are inner shadow,
Hmm.
nearly on all the landscape and the trees, and I think nearly every object has this inner shadow grainy gradient. So it's got like a 7% noise on it.
Hmm.
And then I, over the top of everything, have a noise and posterized time to 15 frames. I think that's a Ben Marriott special.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and then oh god, this smoke
Yeah. I was gonna
was
ask, how did you do the smoke?
oh my god, I don't think I know how I did the smoke. So this is so it's kind of this sort of
Hmm.
situation, like a repeater with a wiggle on the scale and position. Then it's a oh okay, and this is why I rendered it out as a movie sequence because I duplicated and offset this animation like dozens of times, like too many times, like way too many times. I do not care about renders at all. So then from there, chuck that in a comp, and then I've got I think I've got got like a wave warp. Yeah, so that's essential. That's kind of how we got there.
It's
Um,
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely crushed my machine's will to live. Uh,
I really enjoy seeing how people made beautiful work like you just showed. So thanks for showing that. Um, here, I feel like somehow I like skipped a step in the beginning that I'm just gonna backtrack to for a second. So where are you originally? Yeah, where'd you grow up?
what is my origin story?
Yes, your origin story.
Yeah, so I have like I like doing this to people because it like whips them around the globe. But I was an Air Force baby,
Oh.
so I was born in Malaysia, Penang,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved to Australia. And like my dad's Australian, my mom's Australian, everyone's Australian. I have a Malaysian birth certificate, so it's kind of fun. Causes all kinds of problems
Yep.
with immigration and whatnot.
Yep.
But that's my problem. So I yeah grew up in Melbourne, Australia. So like kind of the southeastern tip of Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I went to school there, went to Victoria University, did like 4 years in like a advanced design diploma or something like that. I should know that, but it doesn't matter anymore. And then I got my first job out of college at a toy manufacturing place. And so I worked on like Disney, Mattel, Marvel, Star Wars, like Lucasfilm, like box packaging and stuff like that, and doing branding for them. And that was really fun, just as like a production designer. And so that was really fun. And then I visited my sister, who was in Calgary at the time. And so I went over to visit her, traveled around Canada, and then I met my now wife. and now I have two kids. And I was meant to just go for 3 months, and it's been what, like 15 years now. So just a
And
short stay. So my parents are still in Australia,
mhm.
so they come over every once in a while. But no, we usually like meet up in Hawaii and stuff like that, right? Like my parents and
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah.
So just out of curiosity, where in Hawaii do you guys like to go?
We usually go to Honolulu,
Mm-hmm.
just because we've got a timeshare there and it's cheap and
Yep, yep. That's a
lots of pineapple.
good middle point. My brother-in-law lives in Honolulu. My wife grew up on Maui. Cool. I didn't know we had that Hawaii connection. At the end, I was going to ask you about some highlights and lowlights from your career. Do you want to start with a lowlight and maybe what you learned from it, and then end on a highlight?
Sure. I've got it. I've got exactly the one, and it's the one I share all the time, so that's totally fine.
Perfect.
Okay, so um, so this is the first job. This is at the toy manufacturing company that I mentioned earlier. So they make lockable diaries there, right? Like Barbie Mariposa lockable diaries,
Yep,
butterflies and sparkles everywhere.
yep.
Is like,
I've got a couple of those diaries myself. Yeah,
totally.
yeah.
And most of them say lockable diary on the front. And so at the end, at the start of every project, you punch in lockable diary. Terrible speller, no spell check in Illustrator. Lockable. I wrote down lockable dairy, right? Like like dairy products.
Yeah, yeah.
And so this goes through. No one looks at it, right? Like, I mean, not no one, but like dozens of people look at this thing. We have to send it to Mattel, to their art team. They're all like, looks great, lockable dairy, totally cool. And so then months go by, right? And then so these things go overseas to get produced, and they get shipped back here. Hundreds of thousands of lockable dairies arrive in our warehouse, and one of the warehouse workers like opens up a box and is like, really, like, is this on all of them? And then so he walks in and he's like, slams down a box of like lockable dairies and is like, who is responsible for this?
What
So
was the aftermath of this whole
um
escapade?
they kind of like did a bit of a, loop de loo of like who is responsible. And luckily, like, I was the least paid person there, so
Hmm.
but no, I think eventually they just gave them all to charity because it's still good. Like, no one cares if it says dairy on the front, so they gave them to a charity. And then yeah, it was like, I think it was like 140, 150,000 copies.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah,
Jeez.
and then they wrote it off as a misprint and whatever, right? So I didn't get a look at like what happened there, but um,
I
and
love that
then
story.
yeah,
Okay.
and then so I'd say like still is, but I worked at um, a TransAlta. It's a power manufacturer. I was a graphic designer there, so this is a couple of years ago now. But I was like, it was kind of my one of my first jobs in like a big organization, and I was like the only graphic designer. And they're like, "Hey, we need a campaign for like our sponsorship with the Calgary Stampede." And so like you, Beau, have just got out of I was a newborn babe, right? No idea really what I was doing. And so then I art directed and shot a campaign in like less than 2 weeks. And so the photographers I worked with were like amazingly talented photographers that like shouldn't have I didn't deserve to like scrape the gum off of their shoes kind of thing. But they were so generous with their time, and I learned so much about like just being nice, which is kind of I think is just it's the Adam Savage rule, like don't be an asshole, a golden rule, right? So yeah, that's probably the like one. It's like the thing is like that experience was like 10 years ago, but it sticks out in my memory. So oh, more than 10 years. Oh God, it was like yeah, well, quite a while ago. And so but that like that, and then also the willingness to try something and fail, and you really don't have any other options. like, and that work landed me my next job and my next job and my next job, and like, and it's that the feeling of like this could all burn, right? It could all burn,
But it
and you
didn't.
need to be okay with it, right?
Yeah, it all worked out though, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. And of course, like, that very well could have been my like low point, I was asked to do this job and I didn't know what to do and I failed, like, So it's just luck, luck, and you just do your best.
I
So
bet it was a little bit more than luck based on the work that I've seen from you. Um,
thank you.
so I'm going to land the plane here. Um,
Oh,
so, one more time, where can people find more of your stuff on the internet?
sure. So it's Beau W. Ryan, or at Beau W. Ryan on Instagram, and BeauRyanCreative.com is
Hmm.
my website and reel, and try and keep that as up to date as I can. Still got some of my older work in there too, so I'm trying to update that as I go. But
Hmm. Awesome. So yeah, if I hope that people now feel like they know you a little bit better. I really appreciate you taking the time. And if anybody out there needs an awesome graphic designer, illustrator, motionographer, definitely contact Beau. And yeah, thanks again, Beau.
thank you, Andrew.
All right, I'm gonna stop recording.